What's up, Thrashers, and welcome back once again to the Thrash Maniac 99 YouTube channel, and I am back with another album review, and today I am talking about the latest offering from French brutal death metal slash deathgrinders, Benighted, with EKBOM. This also came out on April 12th, this time on Season of Mist Records, and this is their 10th album overall, but this is actually the first time I've ever checked this band out. I've heard this name come up many times in the metal circles, especially death metal, but I just never got around to checking them out until this new album. And, well, basically, from what I gathered, yeah, this is a hybrid of, like, brutal death metal and death grind kind of mixed together, even though I saw in the archives they started out as more of a black metal band and then morphed into more death metal and grindcore oriented styles. So, after the pointless intro, Prodom, we get into the song Scars, and immediately, these mega fast blast beats and tremolo riffs, I got immediate echoes of cattle decapitation. But then, after the crazy hyperspeed section, then we get into more rhythms and riffs that remind me of Aborted, which is funny considering we talked about Aborted just a little over a month ago with their last album, and it was still solid, but not my cup of tea when it comes to Aborted albums. But yeah, Scars also featuring some cool like technical sweeps, showcasing that they can get as technical as a band like Necrophagist or Obscura, bands along those lines. And even this and the following track, Morgue, are really the only songs where I would say that there was any tinges of melody, because this album, it's just foot on the gas, pummeling you with crazy fast blast beats and riffs with some grooves and occasional slams here and there. But speaking of the song Morgue, this track, as well as the following track, Levi des Entrales, I probably butchered that, the title track, those are the only tracks on this album where the lyrics are in French. But with the song Morgue, it's more or less thrashy, like it's got more of like a thrashy energy to it, with some really tasty rhythms. Like, I don't know the name of the drummer, but he puts on a hell of a performance across the board on this entire album. Again, little tinges of melody, even some slight soaring tremolo riffs, and a breakdown to kind of add more spices to the recipe. But then Leves des Entrales, this one really gets blasty, but it does get quite riffy with some nasty tremolo riffs to kind of just add some darkness to the song, some grooves to kind of add some catchiness. But I get, not only on this track, but on a lot of songs later in the album, lots of Cryptopsy vibes with how technical it gets and how fast it gets with the rhythms. It's just skyrocketing. Nothing Left to Fear, which features Ollie Peters from Archspire doing vocals. This one is where the blast beats get really unhinged. The gravity blast beat, which if you don't know what that is, check out 66 Samus's Advanced Blast Beat video, and you'll know what I'm talking about. So yeah, you get some gravity blasts, but with some technical riffs, almost like Vitriol's last album that came out earlier in the year. And then you do get a big groove, and then one of the first times you get to hear me talk about dissonance, like this track, as well as Metastasis, Flesh Against Flesh, and even the closing track, Mother Earth, Mother Whore. You get some more dissonant guitars to kind of add some more darkness and depth to the songs. Even some synths pop up here on Nothing Left to Fear, but one thing that starts to sprinkle its way into the song, starting with this track, some of that grindcore stylings, very much like Napalm Death, kind of gets thrown into the mix. And then the title track definitely gets a little bit more technical and more of that Cryptopsy vibe, but Metastasis, this is the one where I got the most echoes to Aborted, which I know Aborted and Benighted get compared to each other quite often. This song could definitely make a run for the money up against Aborted, with also some nice groove, again some dissonance come in, and this is the only track on the album where you get a guitar solo. And it was a killer solo. I just wish there was more solos on the album. And that's one of the things that holds this album back, in my opinion, is that there's, other than this one song, I would have loved to have heard more leads, and I just didn't get any aside from Metastasis. A Reason for Treason, this one gets back again to some of the more thrashiness and some chug, Gravity Blast, it gets grindcore styled again, though the chorus is strange. Like, it's got gang vocals, but it has kind of a deathcore vibe to it, which I kind of was like, could have lived without that element. It could have just stayed aggressive instead of this, but that's just me. Fame of the Grotesque, which was the shortest track of the album, I believe it was about like 2 minutes 17 seconds, has some samples, but again, you get more of those Cryptopsy vibes with the riffs and the drums, some off-time groove to kind of add some like interesting like dynamics within the song. Scapegoat, other than being a terrible t-shirt for Jack Perry right now, why in the hell are people buying that shirt, you morons, but whatever. This song, it's groovy, chuggy, grindy, slammy. Those are all the adjectives I can come up with. And then Flesh Against Flesh is really where the dissonance starts coming out in full force, especially at the beginning with some sweet drums. You get more of the grindcore aspects again, but you get some more technical guitars coming back, which you hadn't really heard since the title track. And then you even get a really cool moment, like one of the coolest moments of the album is when the dissonance leads to pure utter chaos. And then the closing track, Mother Earth, Mother Horror, this one gets darker, more sinister, especially with the dissonance giving it a little bit of that like immolation vibe. There's some spoken word, but then whenever it gets speedy and out of control, more Cryptopsy vibes. Like, there's a ton of Cryptopsy worship on this album, which, nothing wrong with that. I do enjoy me some Cryptopsy. But yeah, it definitely comes in quite a bit. So, the production, I thought the guitar tone was maybe a little too clean and warm for what I was thinking this band would go for. I was expecting like a grittier, nastier guitar tone, but I will say when it comes to the mix, the bass is prevalent and even has its own moments of shine here and there. But yeah, I just wish the guitar tone was a little bit grittier. And then, like I said, the complaints like the chorus in A Reason for Treason, and then perhaps like the pig squeals whenever they come in. Granted, they don't come up often, but when they do, it's kind of off-putting in my opinion. And then, of course, I just wish there was more leads on here, and also perhaps maybe some more like standout riffs. But overall, this is still a pretty solid album for my first time checking these guys out. I'll give this a 3 out of 5. I think it's a good album for what they're going for here. Maybe not everyone's cup of tea. It might be a challenging listen for some, but for me, it's a pretty solid album. What did you guys think? Let me know in the comments. Until next time, like, comment, share, subscribe, keep your horns high, and your dreams wet.